Good evening. How are you this evening, sir?
Hello. How are you?
I am so honored that you took some time out of your busy life to spend an hour with me and my brewskis, is what I like to call them.
Oh, that's fun. Of course.
Yes. So everybody's all excited and waiting for this. So I thank you so much.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you.
So I have a lot of questions. I'm sure people are going to have some questions. So I kind of just want to get into it. If anybody lives under a rock and doesn't know who you are, which anybody in the paranormal world knows who you are, who doesn't, just kind of, if you can just tell everybody a little bit about Steve.
Oh, Steve is a man who remember, like in the 90s, you see those old videotapes, like dating videotapes, where they have to sit there and go, "Hi, I'm Steve, and I like cats and walking on the beach." And they're like, next video, who's this guy?
Yes.
Yeah. No, my paranormal path is, I'm in my 40s now, so it has been lucky for me because I've been around to see a lot of the growth of the community. I've been around to see a lot of the people who came before us, see them, like the Warrens, and got to see them in their prime and work with them. So I've been doing this for quite some time, which I feel very fortunate about. But I was an investigator for a little bit on my own, had my own team, and then eventually, of course, joined up with Jay and Grant, and it wasn't necessarily TAPS then; it was called Rhode Island Paranormal. Jay and I started talking quite a bit, and and then it became TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, and we were together. Gosh, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe even a little bit longer. But a lot of people think we were sort of incepted for the show. We have a show, Ghost Hunters, for those of you who don't know, and a show, J.I. Tango and Sherry have a show, Ghost Nation. For those of you who aren't familiar with the television background of what I do, but joined up with Jay and then Grant and the rest of the team there, and gosh, I want to say it was maybe in 2002 or 3, perhaps 2002. We got some national recognition, and production companies started getting in touch with the team, Jay and Grant and me, and saying, "Hey, this should be a TV show."
Yeah.
And then that's how it sort of started.
So with that, and I read in your book, which I wanted to point out how awesome your parents are and how supportive they were because of what when you wrote in your book about, and even though they weren't into all this, and this and that, and you had all kinds of stuff going on, you were helping, was it your dad you were helping with the business and stuff, and you're the police officer, you're kind of like, look, this is, what do you guys think? And they said, do it. We support you. Right?
Yeah.
I
That's
love that.
yeah. My parents, luckily, I do have some people in my life who, don't have good parents and don't
Right,
necessarily have, and I don't know what those people do in life.
right,
I mean, I do because they're great people and they are, you know, it's But if I were somebody, without good parents, I feel like I would just be a basket case.
right, right. Yeah,
So yeah, I've been very fortunate to have parents that, my mom is kind of a believer in this sort of thing. My dad, not so much, but it was always supportive. But it was, eventually we had uh, filmed. Not we didn't, but the production company at the time that sort of we had said no for quite some time, maybe 2 or 3 years even. We weren't really interested in doing a television show because back then, not only could you not really, I remember one of the big things were, Jay looking around at us and being like, listen, all we're under like, non-disclosures with most of our nobody wants anybody to know their house is haunted.
right,
And we were all like, "Gosh, we can't bring camera crews to they'll kill us." We would honestly like park in the backyard, and our vehicles are very nondescript, because back then nobody wanted anybody to know their house was haunted. It
right,
wasn't
right.
like it is today. You were looked at as sort of the weirdo. Your house was skipped on Halloween night, and you were sort of whispered about in the grocery store. That sort of thing was really true back then, and
Sure.
people did not. Now houses almost sell for more if they're if they're haunted, but
Yeah,
back then, no, you couldn't sell them. But in any case, the point of that is that was one reason, but there are a few other reasons where we just didn't feel like TV was a good fit for what we were doing. We thought that maybe they would make light of what we were doing in terms of more a poking fun at it type of thing, where we took it very seriously. But this one company, Pilgrim Films, um, now known as Pilgrim Media, but really told us that, listen, understand it is what it is. You may film for 8 months and never find anything. You may not find it. We get it,
right.
and that's fine. We are just gonna, focus on you guys and what you do. That's the interesting part, the investigation, your personalities, the fact that you guys do this and get along so well. And that's sort of led us to go, okay, all right, this makes a little more sense because we were afraid that they would like want ghosts, 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 which
Right.
we all. But you, being an investigator yourself, it's not always the case.
Sure. Sure.
Uh, the average case for us, would be 4 months to 2 years. So thinking of how that would fit in the television world just didn't make sense to us, and we were just so. In any case, fast forward, we eventually said, okay, let's see if we could do this, and that's when they came out and filmed a little bit of a pilot. Right, it was like a 15-minute episode.
Oh,
That
hi,
actually.
baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Look, Steve, I have a tattoo of a harpy with a cat in the middle because I too am
Okay.
a cat lover. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
Once
have
you get
this.
too close, I'll snag her and give her a little camera
Awesome.
time.
Sorry.
But yeah, so we eventually, yeah, and so they came. They came a few times and just observed. Like one dude just came and observed what we did and sort of just figure out how it could be. And then they came and they filmed a bit of a pilot, and then that's what I showed to my parents. I said, "Hey, this is what we may be, but if this happens, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I won't have a likely won't have a job anymore. There's
Right.
like I was
Right.
just considering what could happen." And then they were. That's when they were both like, "Yeah, these are your friends. You love this. We know how much it means to you." Uh, you know,
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
very supportive. But honestly, if they had been like, "Don't do this. You're gonna, ruin your life," or something like that, I don't know. but I probably may not have done it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so awesome about it. 2020 hindsight. Now, you look back and you see, that support is needed, whether it's a significant other with, or, your family or something like that. Like you kind of need that support, especially with what you got. You guys are all over the place, and you guys are doing so much, and you're so highly respected in the field. You know what I mean? Because you guys keep it real. And I think that's the biggest thing was how you guys started out. You knew that's what you guys wanted to do. And, like you didn't want to be one of that group that, put stuff out there that, was made up or fabricated or, anything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I've watched your show from day one and I still watch it. I mean, I really enjoy watching ghost hunters, and you guys are my friends, but I still love watching your show. I mean, I think you guys do awesome. And I think you guys can't ever go away because you guys are like the last real, real show out there, that is awesome.
You're very nice. We're the teams that are out there that are really looking for the real answers. Those are the ones of us who have been able to stick around in that TV world. And I think that the audience they can smell that authenticity. They really can sniff that out. They're very and that's all we are. And we all the time, like when people meet us for the first time, like, gosh, you guys are exactly, but it's like, yeah, but what do you mean? You're like, I don't know, we thought you'd be, it's like, no, this is like, it is what we are, who we are.
Right.
People think I'm not really afraid of spiders. They think that my tattoos are removable.
Yeah.
But it's just that we are just that. And I think people understand that. And I also think, with that authenticity, especially in the beginning, if our show, if we were very much into everything was a ghost, everything was, I don't know that, it would have been the success that it was.
Yeah.
I think that's what sort of grabbed pop culture, it's what sort of grabbed the mainstream, grabbed if I believed in that, if I investigated that, that's what I would do, because those are the people who, when the door slams, they do go, oh, it's just the breeze, You see us looking into that,
Right.
And I think it resonated in like, oh, and really doing research with the history, that sort of thing. But there's room for all of us.
For sure.
All having fun out there.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm not dissing anybody, but I'm just saying, like, for me, it's my personal, you know what I mean? Like, it was you guys. And then even when the Kling brothers came out, Brad and Barry Kling with the Ghost Lab and stuff, I watched that too. Now anymore, it's just either Ghosts on CBS or Ghost Hunters. Those are the two shows I watch.
We're very fortunate to sort of be the ones that, people look at as sort of the, no fooling around type of
well,
thing.
not only that, but and being at the Paracons with you guys and like, helping you guys out and stuff and seeing your fan base come up and talk to you guys. I mean, everybody says it, and it's so true, that without you guys, we wouldn't be having this stuff. If you think about it, I mean, you guys it made it not so taboo anymore. And from that unfolded all these Paracons and all these events and stuff like that. And if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be having all these Paracons and all these events and stuff. I mean, in my opinion, because it took the right people to put what we do on the map in the right way.
Yeah, no, you're right. I do. I mean, I was there, and there were a lot of people who saw that sort of happen. I would go to anything paranormal, and quite honestly, even if you would go see the Warrens speak, which I did, there would be 35, 40 people there, 50 people. And you would see that season 1 of our show, even I remember doing a talk, and there was, during season 1, there's like 30 people, 20 people, like, oh, this guy, he's into what? Scratching their head a little bit. I remember Jay Grant and I did a paranormal talk somewhere in a bit of a signing, and a few sort of, and then all of a sudden, I'd say midway, see, probably right at the beginning of season two, it was all of a sudden, thousands of people. We would do a convention, and and we'd be like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" When did this happen? It was quite a difference and I want to say less than a year. The field really grew very rapidly from 2005 to 2010. It even still grows, and I think a lot of people also who were interested in it, who loved it on their own, didn't quite realize it would be so easy to just, they're like, "Oh, I could never do that." It's like, no,
Right.
actually, you can. Just find a bunch of friends who take it as seriously as you do and go do it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't take much more than that. And so I think that's when you start seeing a lot of teams popping up, like, "Oh, I can do that too."
Mhm.
And that's great because, as you know, we do a lot of not just signings and talks and meet and greets, but we also do paranormal events, where we'll meet up and go to a place. I'm just picking a random place, but we'll go to say Waverly Hills and with a group of people
Right.
and or wherever and that's awesome too because those quite honestly didn't really exist at all. I remember it was Dave Schrader got in touch with me in like 2005 and asked about it if I'd want to do something like that, and we both thought it was kind of weird. Like, what do you mean? People pay to come do what? Like, meet and investigate with me? That's what do you mean? Yeah, I think our fans would really like it. And it sold out like 100 people in like 20 minutes, he said, or something. And then so there sort of gave birth from all these events that are everywhere. And what's awesome about that is you're meeting other investigators and we're learning from them, we're imparting stuff that we've learned to them. You're inspiring other people who may just want to come to meet you as a person they've seen on television or something, but then all of a sudden they get that bug, they meet other people, and a year later they're on a team, they're having fun, they're helping to further the field. So it's all really important and quite an awesome ecosystem really that has been built for the community, and we're all a part of it. It's really cool to see everybody, time and time again. Like, hey, it's really cool.
Yeah. Um, I just want to say two things. One, we have somebody checking in from Malaysia. We have somebody watching from Indonesia. So you're reaching, Steve.
Oh,
Also, everybody that has
okay,
questions, I'm starring them, so I'll get to them in a little bit. I don't want to interrupt Steve, and I
please
just
do. You
uh,
see me, I ramble, interrupt.
give a shout out to my mama. She's saying, "Love Ghost Hunters." She does. She's a fan. Um,
Oh,
I wanted to say this too. You and I both share the same, which I didn't know this until I read your book, but the same feelings about the movie, The Entity.
mm,
I say I bring this up all the time on my shows. Like everybody's like, because everybody likes to say what's the scariest movie, The Exorcist or this or that, and I'm like, hands down, The Entity. I
yes,
to this day I watch it and it
yes.
scares me.
I tell you what, the entity, sure, very, it is terrifying, and like you said, more so than some of those other, The Exorcist, is it scary? Of course, terrifying, but that's the type of phenomena, you really got to go looking deep for that. You're not just going to be walking around a house, demons
Sure.
are coming, but the entity, that's more like, oh, that can happen to me anytime, any place, like, ooh, like that's where it's terrifying.
Yeah. It's that movie I didn't watch it till I was older. And you would think a movie from the 70s would be, because the CGI isn't that good and this and that, they didn't have all the stuff that they had back then, but that movie still It was
Terrifying.
even now, like even watching it today, like you know, it's not as good as what it would be, but it was still done good, you know. And the fact that it's all based on true events or based on true stories, and you know, they've had, you know, the way that things were investigated back then, they show you like all the different types of people that came in to investigate. I mean, I was like this whole time watching the movie with
Yeah.
a blanket, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so terrifying." It's like,
Mhm.
you know, so I was when you wrote that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's so great." You know, it was just something that because you don't hear that many people bring that movie up, you know,
No,
now.
not now. I mean, it's, an older movie, at this point, for sure, but doing a lot of horror conventions myself, going to them and being lucky enough to, do meet and greets at horror conventions and stuff. And, that movie is still quite a presence in that community for sure. You see, and I actually ran into Barbara Hershey once. She came up to
Oh,
JM.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, at I think it was Rhode Island Comic Con, maybe, and she was like, Ghost Hunter is my favorite show. Like, she was telling us it was her favorite show, and she was going pretty crazy, like, "I can't believe this is so awesome." And, I told her, I said, "You're the reason I do this," like, and so I
Yeah.
told her that little entity story there, and
Yeah.
she's quite sweet, but, um, yeah, that movie is and like you said, the investigators, of course, people, you think movies and a lot of it is very, of course, blown out of proportion, as anything is for a movie.
Sure.
And you kind of have to, because as you know, what we do, that you could literally sit in the dark for 2 weeks, and that's all it is. So you do maybe need at times, and no big deal there. But the investigators, I've told a lot of people recently, if you watch Poltergeist, very much very similar to what we do as investigators, maybe even the closest to any movie. But a lot of people sort of discount that in terms of the investigators, but uh, uh, they've gotten a lot of their info, I believe, from William G. Roll, Poltergeist, and if you think of it, the way the investigators approach it, and as an investigator, when you have an experience like they were experiencing, uh, you don't usually, because you're an investigator, you're not going there to scare, you're going there to find that. And
Right.
the way they look at it with reverence and like it's beautiful, and they start getting teary-eyed and that's what it's really like, setting up. They have a center command with
Right.
cameras going, they're documenting with notes, they're using scientific method and and even the way the haunting is portrayed in that movie, as the family. As well as I do, that's the way it is in the real world. Somebody who's dealing with a true haunted house, they have a hard time maintaining friendships, relationships. They have a hard time maintaining a career in some instances. And in the beginning of that movie, dad's suit and tie. He's
Sure.
selling real estate. He's watching the game. I think it's a football game with his friends. They're having a family's tight. Him and his wife are doing hanging out and having a blast. They seem like a great married couple. They're halfway through the movie. He hasn't shaved. He hasn't changed out of his robe. His shirt's dirty. He's at odds with his family. He's grumpy.
Yep.
uh, and that's kind of what happens. And so sometimes the movies are a little more true to life, and when it comes to the investigator side, uh, it can be.
Oh. I hear her again. Oh, hi, baby.
This is
Oh, what's her name?
Fleur.
Fleur. How cute.
She pretty much owns this place.
Brian
Uh,
Murray says those cats.
hmm, he's just, oh gosh, I can't get enough of him. Sorry.
Aw.
Okay. See,
I believe me, I feel you on that. Um, so, all right, so let me think. So I want to bring up one thing. One of my most favorite Ghost Hunters episode was something that you caught. It was a private house. I talk about this a lot too because it literally still when I rewatch it because I show people the clip and the hair stands up on my arms. Um, it was a private home and I always forget where it was at, but you'll remember. You were on the couch, you had the video camera, and as you were getting up off the couch, this black figure pops up and you guys had caught that EVP Chesney and or Chestnut. Remember, and the woman said that her sister's nickname in school was Chestnut or Chesney or something.
yeah, yeah,
That thing that you kept like, and it looked like a woman, and it looked like long hair. It looked like maybe could have possibly have been, and this could be pareidolia, but like maybe a flannel because it was real dark, but you could see you could make out some features. Like you could see that there was long hair, and I felt like you could kind of see maybe a flat, like it looked kind of flannelly, like a little bit. Um, I'm getting chills thinking about it. That I could not believe how amazing that was. Just like my favorite thing to show people for like the next 3 months after that episode.
yeah. The evidence, it really gets us excited, and quite honestly, I remember on our Ghost Nation show, we caught something in the investigator, and we were like, Tango and I were like, we were getting teary eyed, and we were high fiving, and I was like hooting and hollering, and I said to the local investigator, super nice guy named Lee, who ended up being one of my favorite investigators. I tell you what, really, really sharp, awesome dude. Um, but he was like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "You're getting me pumped up." He's like, "I want to go in there and like experience that,
Yeah, yeah.
But the evidence is really so. We do a lot of real time analysis. Where you're listening in the moment, you're viewing in the moment. But when you catch those things after the fact, they're still just as exciting. In the moment's always,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
uh, that evidence review, because you know how tedious it can be.
yeah.
One of the reasons we do a lot of real-time analysis, less you have to analyze later.
Right, right, right.
But so when you do have, something like that you find, it's really, really awesome. And
That was hands down like that was like one of the best things I've ever seen. I mean, still to this day, and that was like on the original Ghost Hunter seasons. But yes, somebody's asking. Yes, you can find that clip online. Just you can YouTube it, and I have it saved in my YouTube because I love it. It's like the best. It was one of the best. I mean, it really is. It was amazing. And you didn't even nobody saw it at the time. You were literally just getting up off the couch, and just by chance, the way the camera just moved, and it was just like, whoop.
yeah,
Oh,
and it makes you wonder, like, as an investigator, if it was there in the environment, which maybe it could be. I could have done something like rub my eyes when I got up, so I'm not seeing what's in front of me. My eyes are filled with phosphenes or something, and I just can't really see for a couple seconds. And a lot of things could happen. But as an investigator, what you start to think about is, well, I'm using, I think on that, it was maybe even a full spectrum camera, certainly infrared. But you begin to think like, okay, if I didn't see that with my eyes, does that mean that it's existing in the, infrared spectrum? Does that mean if I'm not seeing it in the, we know what we can see, it's
right,
it's red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, violet, Biv, yeah, blue. But outside of that,
right,
uh, with full spectrum, with infrared, you're able to see those other spectrums. And what's cool about that is you're able to now maybe say, hey, maybe that's not in our visible spectrum and outside of that, which I
right,
think is pretty cool. Very kind of boring for people who aren't really into the nitty gritty of the investigating. You
right.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
for people like us, that's the fascinating stuff. Like, oh, I
yeah.
wonder what's going on here.
Right. Right. Now, do you use full spectrum cameras?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the FLIRs are great too.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You
Hmm.
know,
Infrared
um,
is very
yeah.
important.
See, I like things that aren't made for ghost hunting. Like I know I do use stuff that are made for ghost hunting, but I tend to like the things that aren't, like the things that electricians use, or the things that, the everyday stuff, and I never leave home without a recorder.
Hmm.
Like I have at least 7 recorders, 7 to 10 recorders with me. I have to write down where I put them because my ADHD, I'll forget. You know what I mean? Um, what's your favorite thing to use? What
I,
wouldn't you leave home without?
I for me, I would say if I could, a full spectrum camera. Um, for a few different reasons. You now have the capability of recording everything you can see in the visible spectrum, but also all of those other spectrums that, and it's not a full, no full spectrum camera is full spectrum. You get a few more, but not every known or unknown spectrum. But um, you're able to see now things that exist in that spectrum as well. And that's another good reason why um, investigating it at night works to our benefit because, as you know, you may be able to use night vision, infrared, full spectrum with lights on, but there's an effect known as bloom, where it just blooms out. You know,
Right,
inside the device there are all of these corridors that fill with light to enhance the visual that we're seeing, and as it spills out into the next one, uh, what happens is it may stop spilling out and may just explode into the whole visual, and that is a problem for us, and that's why uh, you know in, when it's dark it's really a bit uh, you know easier to use night vision.
yeah.
Wait, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching a really cool video. Now, unfortunately, we can't get our hands on stuff like this, but the military just came out with this new advanced, like crazy night vision, where you can see so good with it. I mean, it gives the soldiers like this yellow glow, like this small little yellow line around them, so it actually will mark out people and everything like that. I was like, "Oh my
Mm.
god, how awesome would it be to have one of those?"
um yeah, there was well, this is more with the full spectrum camera, but just back into that, you also can record audio too. So you sort of
Yeah,
filling a few different, knocking a few, but weaponry and military imagery, imagery. Uh, we investigated Wright Patterson Air Force Base once. I think at the time it was uh, me, Jay, Grant Tango, Amy Bruni, Chris Williams, and I don't remember who else was there. But at one point, there was some whispering, and they were like, "Lose the cameras." We're like, "Okay, sure,
oh
get rid
wow.
of the mics." And so now we find it's me, Jay, Grant Tango, and I think even Chris, Amy, with these military guys in this room, and they're like, okay, and they just started like putting this gear on us and these like helmets on us, and we're like, what's going on here? And they were kind of like into the show, so they were kind of like excited to show us. They're like, we gotta show you guys this, and you know, and so in one section there's this table with this cylinder on it. Who knows what it is? I mean, I know now, we know now, but and then all of a sudden we heard like this it wasn't even like what you would think it was. I'll tell you, it was a laser, right? And it wasn't even what you think it would sound like. It was like a flash, just sounded like, and then all of a sudden a hole blew into like this brick and this like cinder block thing on the other end of
Oh,
the room, or whatever it was they had there. And they told us, they said, we got this, and I didn't even know what this term meant at the time, but they're like, we're back engineering it, and in 20 years, they told all us this, 20 years it'll be on all of our fighter jets.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't look at it as like a villainous, evil, like,
Right, right.
which we were all like, "This is the death ray gun." This is we were all like scared, but they're like, "This is, our way anyway of, if we need to whatever,
Yeah,
we can, pinpoint one target and not just take out 100 people." They're gonna be able to, if there's somebody, this is terrible to even say or talk about, but,
right,
uh,
right.
and this is government, if, be able to sort of hit one person and not just blanket a whole area and
Yeah,
kill 1,000 people,
yeah,
which, is nice to think of, war being that tactile, but, it's never gonna be. It's not. It can, I don't know. That's a conversation for a different time.
you're
But
fine.
anyway, that's what they told us, and I've told that story a few times, and Tango always like elbows me, like, "Dude, someday you're gonna have like a red dot, waiting to just, you know."
Yeah,
And I
it's
don't
crazy.
think that's something they want, really getting out there, but
No,
who knows?
yeah, but still is awesome. I would have loved to seen that. I'm all
Yeah,
about military, like, I love military, well, I love history stuff. So I love anything historical. So I love going to like the military museums where they have like all the and so I love all the old planes, I love all the old tanks and the guns and the all that stuff. So anything military, I'm all about. I have yet to investigate on a battleship, which I know you guys have done. Like you did, like you've done a few, um, and um, are they? Do you find like so you've done which you had a lot of experience with Alcatraz, which I wanted to ask you a couple questions about that because um, I've never been to Alcatraz, and there's a lot of people that say they go there, but they didn't have the opportunity to investigate the way you did. You know what I mean? But just like walking around, people are like, "Yeah, no, I didn't feel anything, whatever, whatever." So the stuff that you guys got there is awesome. Like you got that EVP. I remember in the book where it was like it said the person's name and then the number, and you found out you guys did some research and found out there was actually was a gentleman there with that same name, and that was his cell number, right?
I think it was his. I could be wrong, but I think it was his
Oh,
prison
his
number, his
yeah,
like his the number, like whatever number they assign you in prison, that's on your uniform, that sort of thing.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, that Alcatraz was amazing, quite honestly.
yeah. You
Very,
you you were researching a guy there. Stroud was his last name, and you did talk about, and I thought his story was so interesting. I mean, when you told his story, but what was it about him that drew you to him initially?
well, whenever you're going to a place like that of history, naturally you're attracted to, the because that's just what they build it on. So everybody knows of, Birdman of Alcatraz, and that whole story. So of course, like, oh, that's cool, to learn a little bit about him. But once you get there and really start hearing the stories, you find out that there were a lot of, um, I guess you would say, interactions, encounters, experiences involving what they believe to be, the ghost of Robert Stroud, who is the Birdman of Alcatraz. Interestingly, he was always in, I believe in solitary at Alcatraz, so he never, even messed with birds. That was his
That
pre.
was sad to me. That was sad to me, that part.
Yeah, I guess so. If a creep like that could, if you want to be sad for us,
Well, just the whole burp, because like I mean, I'm an
not
animal,
criminal.
I'm an animal lover, and like if you have somebody that like takes care of
Yeah,
birds instead of killing, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I just felt bad about that part. That one little part. I was like, oh, like,
no, of course. But
you know?
interestingly, is before they took the birds away from him, he actually became a well-known. I forget what the word is, but people who study birds, and he
Yeah,
had some books published in the field and that sort of thing, and was really studying the. But he loved those birds supposedly. But yeah, Alcatraz and they didn't quite. Production companies are funny where they a lot of times they think they're giving you all of the information, and you're not necessarily getting all of the information. So and this is good information. We were excited, but I remember we're all like, okay, well, this is that we just couldn't understand if there were going to be other people there. Like what hours, what time does it close? And oh, don't worry about that. And they just think you're getting information through some other. But I remember we get there, and then the park. They had one park ranger there with us that met us, and we were like, okay, but what hours do you close? Will everybody be off the island? Like we can't have anybody. We need to. And he was like, no, we're closed, like closed for you guys. I'm like, for us? Like you closed for us? Oh yeah, like the whole week. No, there ain't nobody coming. Nobody.
So
Um,
cool.
it's just me and you guys, and that was awesome. And I not that I wish I had that information ahead of time, because I guess it made it a bit more exciting. But I think leading up to it, we would have been so excited to know that we have this whole island completely to ourselves, and that was really cool. The guard that was with us, though, for whatever reason, he didn't like me. At all. I rubbed him wrong from the beginning. I'm not sure why. He was really everybody
Really?
thought it was weird. They were like, "Why does this guy hate you so much?" I'm like, "I don't know." And at one point in time, he's like, "No water down there," and I'm like, everyone's like, "Yeah, of course, sure, sir, yep." And like they have the little like vitamin packets,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
the water, put a little vitamin packet, and I guess he's right, but the way and so like I'm down there, now with the thing, and I'm taking a sip, and he's like, kind of gets in my face, and he's like, "I said nothing down here but water," and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's this water." He's like, "I saw you put that packet in there. It's no longer water." I was like, "Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't."
What? What?
He told me, he said, "March your ASS up," like,
Oh
and he
my
was like,
God.
only everyone else he was like palling around with this and that. But
Really?
everyone kind of like barked back at him at one point because we were leaving the island. Sorry if this guy ever watches this. Sorry, maybe he's nice in real life. I don't know. But everyone was talking about somebody being a cop, like on the crew, And Tango, they knew that, like, oh, you were. And Tango's like, no, no, my dad is a cop, and I wasn't a, whatever. And everybody's like, it's Steve. Steve was a cop, and finally gets around. He's like, which one's? And they're like, him. And he looks at me. He's like, you were a cop. And I
Oh
was like,
my gosh.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. And then everybody's like, we don't know what your problem is with this guy. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Anyway, funny little side story about
No,
Alcatraz.
well, yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy. Like, did he ever fess up?
No, I don't know what it was. He was just he had it out for me. Maybe he didn't like tattoos. He was very like astute, very much a military kind of astute guy, which doesn't even make sense because plenty of people in the military have
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
sleeve, neck tat, the whole thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. He was, and when he found out that I used to be a police officer, he was so like hurt by it. Like you were the one. This guy was,
Oh my God. That's so crazy. Wow. Interesting. I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, do you find it's easier? Like, do you get the places now they reach out to you for you guys to come, or are you guys still looking for places or
no,
reaching out to places yourselves?
it's all like Alcatraz definitely got in touch with us. It's usually that way. There are always places that we want to do as investigators, and we will, of course, push those places. We'll all sort of talk about it and say, hey, we should, we've always wanted to check this place out. Let's see if we can do it. But it does have to be vetted a few different ways. Background checks with
Sure.
all involved. Logistically, can it be filmed at? Legally, can it be filmed at? Does the story make sense for television? You know, as investigators, of course, we all know, yeah, that you just go, you find, like, of course, what we
Right.
do, it's awesome. But there are some things that need to, you know, line up. You know, is there somebody that can, you know, so there are dip, but by and large, we get our cases from people who get in touch with us and say, "Hey, you should come check this place out or check us out," or you know, even more so, the ones that get you know get put to the top there.
Yeah,
I think now for most investigation teams, you know, is when there is actually somebody who needs legitimate assistance in some regard.
absolutely. Yeah,
And that can be a private residence, that can be a business, you know, that really can be. There are plenty of businesses where you kind of think like, oh, maybe they're just trying to hype up their business through their ghost tours because some places have done that for sure. But all of a sudden, when they're telling you these stories, you see the tears in their eyes and the, you know, the and how sincere they are. And you talk to the employees who are like, I couldn't stay here. Like I love this job, but I had to quit 2 months ago, you know, and you see how like, wow. And you know, and you can help those people too.
yeah,
It may not, you're not going to get rid of ghosts, you know,
yeah.
and maybe some people can. I don't know, but it's very unlikely, and maybe we shouldn't. You know, they were there
Right.
likely
There's
long
a
before
reason.
us. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and if you think about it, if they died a couple, you know, long time ago in the grand scheme of things, it probably is more so theirs than ours. You know, we're here 80 years if we're lucky. Um, but in any case, it can come through even just education. If they
yeah,
understand what's happening, if they can sort of get some tells that you know, because as seasoned investigators, there are some things that you know you almost can kind of tell, like, whoa, something. You know, this is you get on guard. You don't really know why. You know, it's not a psychic sort of, not for me anyway, sort of sense, but just to you know, the energy in the room changes when when something's going to happen.
yeah,
You sort of teach them ways to tune into that and ways to investigate on their own so that they can, you know, really empower themselves to take control
yeah,
of the situation and not be fearful of it. And a lot of times you help people through fixing the history. You know, there was a very quick, for instance, there was a woman who was terrified to go in her kitchen. She had these stairs from the living room would go up into this little walkway and then to the kitchen. It was a sunken living room. She hated it so much so that she would go out the front door, even in the winter, around the outside to the side door of the kitchen because she had tripped next to those stairs a few times. And she was certain because through oral history and just talking to people in the town that a woman had died there on the stairs, had fell, had died, and other investigators, quite honestly, other teams, no teams on television, this is just other investigators, had told her that they had, you know, experienced the same thing there, and they attributed it to this woman who, you know, died and was vengeful for her death or whatever the case may
oh,
be. You know? But we ended up finding out through contacting the family and getting the actual historical records, which I understand isn't easy in all cases. So it's not like, you know, you know, not every paranormal team can take, you know, 3 months to research a location and can't always get their fingers as deep into things as some but, you know, when we did the research, we found out that nobody died there. The woman that everybody was talking about, actually passed away of, I believe it was heart failure, in her 80s, you know, in a hospital 2 hours away. And once we cleared all that up for her, she was such a smart and sharp woman that before we could even tell her what it was likely she was experiencing, she kind of put it together for herself, like, "Oh, so my brain is tricking me. So, because I think this woman actually passed away here, and I'm any little thing that happens around there, I'm attributing to that. And
right,
maybe I tripped there really one day, and I just blamed it on the ghost because and it's not her
right,
job to figure it out. She's not an investigator. She's
right.
just scared, and now she's scared. So this lady was so sharp that she put it together before we could even finish our sentence, and she was like, "Oh my god." And ever since then, she's never had any
That's awesome.
those stairs, and that's not a way to. But some people are not receptive to that. They're like, I know what I experienced. You're not going to
Right,
tell
right,
me.
right, right.
But
Yeah,
she was.
yeah. A lot of people want their house to be haunted, or they want, or they're so convinced. The mind is a powerful thing. So it's like once somebody's convinced, like that's what that's their truth. Even you guys like you that come in there, can't tell them different. Like it's almost like they want that confirmation from you, and then when they don't get it, they get angry. Like,
People do, yeah, yep. But you can only try to,
yeah,
and but a lot of people really do. They may be experiencing from things like it's micro naps. Suffering things. There are things that they really could be experiencing where they really do think that this is happening in front of them, and it's not. And you try not to hurt people's feelings or what they need to understand. And when I say they, I mean people who do get a little offensive, is that we want it to be a ghost. Like
yeah,
every
yeah,
single time I want it to be paranormal. I really
right,
do.
yeah,
I want it to be as intense and scary as you can imagine. I really do. So does Jay. So does Tango. So does Shay. Like that's what we want to experience.
right,
Uh, but it doesn't do any good to fool yourself just to have, it doesn't
yeah.
do your client any good. And we try to, but, once they realize that we want it to be a ghost, we really do, but you just have to look at everything.
Do you
Yeah.
guys still do private cases, or is that hard to do now? I mean, it's hard for you guys. You do.
Well,
I would imagine it'd be hard for you guys now. You know what I mean? To do private cases. You guys have people that help you, right? You guys have the TAPS team. You have like a TAPS team that helps out with the private stuff, right?
yeah, for the show, we do private residences. We really do. And if there's a team there, we could maybe pop, but at least the core of us, we're not in people's houses.
Right, right.
It's just get a little crazy, a little weird, a little
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine. It wouldn't be about the ghost hunt. It would be about the ghost hunters. You know what I mean?
um, yeah, to your point, yes, for sure, absolutely. And I can say I still, because even with the show, when we're actively filming, we're doing a case every with Nation every 2 or 3 weeks, same with Ghost Hunter. So and there are a lot of private residences in there, so we are for sure. But we utilize the Taps family, which is a local sort of team in every sort of town there, or not every town, but all of the teams that sort of have registered to be in our umbrella network of teams, and we just make sure that they investigate under sort of the same protocols and procedures and that
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah.
They have to be established, you know, not trying
Right,
to fool people, and they can't charge people. You can't
right, right,
go
right.
into people's houses and be like, "Yeah, we'll investigate, but it's gonna be $2,500." You
Yep.
just.
Yeah,
But if you follow all those guidelines, yeah. And so we have all those teams all over the country that do investigate, and of course we have the TAPS home team. It's always going all over New England, and
that's
we
awesome.
still very much in every, a lot of the residential cases we do, we still keep in touch with a lot of those folks and
Yeah,
talk to people. And, yeah.
that's awesome. You guys are great. You guys really are awesome. Um, so there are some questions, and I know we're running out of time. So I have one question that just wanted your thoughts on, because just reading through some of the experiences you had at some of these places, um, minus which is crazy. It kind of contradicts my what or I'm all right. Let me just ask the question. So when you go to places like Alcatraz, or you go to places, Penhurst and stuff like that, which was in your book. It's also another one of my favorite locations. Love it. But when we go to these places, do you believe, and this is just theory and belief, that if we're connecting with entities or spirits, what have you. Do you think that they're there all the time, or do you think that we are bringing them there when we go there and we're trying to communicate with them, and we're in these, like say, oh, we know, for lack of a better description, let's use Mr. Shroud as an example. You knew of him, you knew where he was at, you knew what he went through. So going into these places and investigating, and you're talking and communicating, and let's just say you Birdman comes over the EVP, do you think that he's there, or do you think that with you and you're trying to communicate, or we bring them there? I don't know how else to explain that, but you know what I mean.
I think I understand. So say, for instance, I am in, like you said, Alcatraz, right? And we're talking, I think here, strictly about something with intelligence, an intelligent type of haunting, not a residual type of haunting.
Right.
So something that is aware of our physical environment somehow. So you're saying, is it that they are there
all the time? Let's just say they're there,
Or are we calling them from somewhere else? Are they, what? Someone's talking about me? Or whatever. They get sucked through the portal and end up.
Right.
We don't know how it works. So
right.
You have to theorize.
Sure.
I would think that, who knows, if you really want to get really deep and think of, physics, where, you would think of every physicist on the planet will tell you, maybe not every, maybe Greg Braden or somebody would, but just about every physicist who doesn't believe in ghosts would tell you that, a ghost that we think of, a paranormal experience, that sort of thing, not a paranormal experience. There are, ways that as scientists, could explain an object moving. They know that there are different ways that even they can manipulate atoms and different molecules to move objects. If I could get this room to 10,000 milligauss, everything that's metal would float, right? That's why you can't bring metal objects into an MRI machine, because they would just float around and get sucked into the machine. Right. Those are 10,000 milligauss, right? So science knows that there are ways that the physical world can be manipulated, and they're figuring out more ways. But they don't believe in ghosts. But what they do believe, most of them, I'd say maybe even all of them that I've talked to anyway, are other dimensions. Right? They all believe in other dimensions. They're not sure what is over there. Most of them believe likely that it's sound waves, light waves, that sort of thing, but other dimensions. So, like you said, are they existing in some other dimension and can just, who knows how, be summoned in this environment that we are in? Or somehow just they hear it, so they just have to, maybe they just tune into it. Who knows? Or are they just there in the, as a paranormal investigator, we don't always have to believe what physicists and scientists say. They're learning all the time, just as we are, as everybody is.
Yeah.
I would, as an investigator, personally tend to think that they're likely somehow existing in the environment. If it is intelligent, if it's residual, it certainly is existing in the environment.
Sure.
And science can even back that up, which, I didn't quite realize until 5 or 6 years ago. I thought it was still just, paranormal theory or whatever, but then you find out like, oh, okay. All right. I get it. So that is a viable thing, that large mineral and rock deposits can absorb energy and redistribute them later. And could that energy include images and sounds? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right.
That's cool. So crazy. It's so crazy. Like, I made the mistake by I watch on The Unexplained, William Shatner. I do watch that show too. Love that show. But they did a show on time lapse the other night. And ever since I watched that show, I'm like, damn it, are we experiencing time lapse stuff? And we just, you know what I mean? Like, it was so one of my favorite questions now is to ask is, can you see us? when we're doing EVPs and stuff, like I want to know, can you see us? Can you, like, what am I wearing and what color shirt am I wearing? How do I look to you? Or and stuff like that, because like it just, I'm like, you could just go down a rabbit hole all over the place with stuff. I mean, even if it is thought forms, like, and you're going into a place because you found out, Genevieve, who was there in the 1830s, did this and that, and her ghost is there. So you go in and you're like, hey, Genevieve, and you're talking, like, is it the thought form that we're picking up, or is it, what I mean? Like, what? It's just, there's so many unknowns and variables still, and I honestly, like, what would happen if we figured it out one day?
We would need. I mean, we would still investigate because we would want to have those experiences, and it would be like, people wanting to go, to the safari and see animals in their. You'd still want to go and experience those things, but would we investigate for answers? Probably not. We would investigate for fun. It would be just more now for the
Yeah.
fun aspect of it, like going to a museum.
Yeah. I always say, like, EVPs are my favorite. Disembodied voices, which that was another thing. I know we're running out of time. I feel bad, but that was the other thing, because you had brought up the phantom sounds at one point, which I wanted to ask you about. But like, EVPs are my favorite thing in the world. Like, and I always say, because everybody's like, how can you listen to hours and hours and hours? And I'm like, because if I get that one, I'm like, it's so worth all of that. I said, it's like watching a meteor shower. Like, you see the meteor go by, you're like, oh, and you're like,
Yeah.
you will stare at the sky at lengths to see another one. And I said, that's how excited I get with just one. I don't care. I could go an entire night, and if I get one awesome EVP that just, like, I'm like, it's worth it to me, because they're the hardest thing to explain, in my opinion. They're the hardest thing to explain with a regular recorder. I mean, I tend to keep away from the spirit boxes and all that stuff, and it's just because I can sometimes hear disembodied voices and stuff, so that kind of like messes with that part of it for me, But anyway, you had, in your book, you had talked about phantom noises and disembodied noises, but when the object isn't there. Like, I think it was something, it sounded like a door to you guys or something like that, but then there wasn't a door there, or something. There was something where you guys had heard something that sounded like a door shutting or this and that, but the object wasn't there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that we would call a disembodied sound, right?
Yeah.
That is just a sound in the environment that you can't figure out the source of, and it is also captured, but that wouldn't be an EVP.
No.
You can capture it on a recorder, but
Sure.
you're just capturing a recording of a disembodied voice. A lot of people will call, if you hear a voice organically in the environment, whether it be paranormal, they'll still call that an EVP. But EVP, you need that first letter, the electronic. If you're not capturing it electronically, it's not an EVP. It's just a disembodied sound, and we do encounter both. There are times when, and it's very important for other investigators, because I see some maybe not doing this, but if you're doing real-time analysis, right, or some people call them different methods or something, but it's just real-time analysis where you're listening to your audio in real time, ask a question, you're listening. Even if you're not asking questions, you're just listening. But that is, if you're doing that, you also need somebody in the room without headphones listening to know, is that somebody coming from outside? If you're hearing headphones, you're not going to know if that voice comes from outside in the room. If it's somebody standing next to you, if it's somebody in the hallway, you'll have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
You need somebody in the room that does not have headphones on, that can hear organically in the environment. And it also, things will sound differently through the headphones than they will organically in the room. So, if it happens and I go, whoa, it may sound like something else through here, and Tango can say, No, 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 no. That was, outside somebody clearing their throat or something. You never
Yeah,
know. I'm making stuff up, but
yeah, yeah,
it's important. But real time analysis is really important. And
yeah,
um, what's really cool about that is you find that if you're listening, and it's great to analyze after the fact. We all do it. You have to do it, right?
yeah,
But you're doing everything, you're getting your information after the fact. So you can still use that information and go back and implement it, but it's a whole other night, maybe even a few days later if you don't have time to go back to back. Whereas if you're doing real-time analysis, the information that you're getting, you can use in the moment to pivot your investigation and to know things about real-time phenomena, where if you're analyzing after the fact, you're not getting that in the moment
right.
information. So I think both are really important, EVPs and the disembodied sounds and voices.
You know what's interesting about that is I've over the last year and a half, I've noticed, and like I said, I have recorders. I leave them on the entire time that we're there. I carry one with me.
But
I leave them on, and I have, my girls will do bursts, but I will leave the recorders on. And I noticed that, so like for about 4 or 5 times, um, when we were listening back to the bursts, I caught an answer on my recorder from the question being replayed on the record, like during the burst. So it didn't get caught on during the burst, but it got caught on my recorder as we were re-listening. So it's almost like it heard the question twice, and the second time it was answering it, listening to the recorder. So am I making sense?
what's a burst? I don't know what a
So the
burst.
burst would be like for like a minute or two. You ask questions, you go around the room, and then you'll
Okay,
sit there,
I
and then
see.
you go back and you listen to see if we caught
Oh,
anything.
okay, I
You
see.
know? Yeah.
Yep.
So like 4 or 5 times, what happened was they did a burst, and then when I was listening back to my recorder, we didn't pick it up on the recorder during the burst or anything like that. But the second time we played it and we're listening to it on my recorder, it answered.
Okay,
Answer.
sure.
And then we were we recently were somewhere, um and same thing, and we're listening back, and we actually thought we caught an EVP. So we were like, oh my gosh, that was so loud. It was like right here. It was like this. It was like a yes. It was like, yes, but it sounded like it was right in the room and this and that. And I was like, oh my gosh, rewind that. So we were rewinding it. And when we rewound it, it wasn't there on the recorder. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I got my recorder. So we stopped my recorder, rewound it, and it was on my recorder. So that was actually a disembodied voice that happened right then and there. Like, I was like, holy, I was like, so then I start thinking, I'm like, I wonder if they can hear better listening to the recorder the way we can hear better listening to back on a recorder sometimes,
Yeah, there are a lot of thoughts behind that. We did a lot of experimentation. I remember Tango and I, we spent almost a year. And one place I know for sure was at Mackinac Island, um, when we investigated there, where we would actually record our questions, and not even just questions, sometimes statements, rapport building, whatever we wanted to say,
Yeah.
and we would play that out um, through different frequencies, which is what you're saying through a record. That's a frequency,
Yeah.
and see if we would get other responses. And so that's a good thought, that it's coming through on certain frequencies, and you know can they hear us better coming through an electronic frequency, and not organically in the environment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe,
Maybe.
maybe. I know we didn't, and we also had to, for a long time, a tablet device that would monitor and record all of the frequencies, and we tried to recognize some patterns in there too,
Oh,
like trying
wow.
to
That's cool.
the EVP and which sound wave or frequency it came in on.
Huh.
And there's also a lot of, because if you are talking about disembodied sounds or voices. That's in the environment. So
Yeah.
you can have 10 recorders in here. They're all going to capture it. They're all going to because it's
Right.
organic environment. But if you're talking about an EVP, it is incredibly possible, I think, for you know some recorders to capture the EVP and for others not to. If it's coming in on a frequency, frequencies don't just go through the atmosphere like this. You
Right.
know, even
Right.
if they're bouncing, they don't just come through like this. They're bouncing all over the place. You
Right.
know, I don't know, quite honestly, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how tight that pattern of bouncing is, but if the sound frequency is bouncing around off these walls, who's to say that it's gonna, you're recording digital frequencies, right? Everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. Who's to say that it's gonna hit this recorder, but maybe not hit that recorder?
Right.
Maybe
Right.
bounce right past it. Who knows? And
Yeah.
sometimes things sound different to other recorders than they do to some. And same with people, right?
Hmm.
We have
Yeah.
what's called the intraoral audio differential, right? Where you literally are hearing different things from one ear to another, and then your brain has to process those two sounds into one sound. But if the sound comes into the room, bounces off this wall, hits this ear, but then bounces off that wall, off there, then there again, and hits that ear, it's completely different from this ear to that ear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
depending where the other person is in the room and the way it's hitting their ears, they're going to hear it completely different than we are hearing it.
Yeah.
And your brain really has to now take those two sounds, make sense of it, and say, "Oh, that is what this sound is." Everybody thinks that's just the way it is, but uh, that can misfire. Like it's trying to make sense of it. It doesn't mean it's always right. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to be really, really careful. But there are a lot of reasons why somebody can hear it with their ears and another person doesn't, or hears something else. One recorder hears it with their intake, and another one doesn't. There are reasons why that could be possible. And then
Yeah.
sometimes we're very lucky where everybody gets it.
Right, right. And I think it has a lot to do with interpretation too. And that's why I think a lot of these things, like, a lot of times people do get different, have different experiences, even if you're in the same room and something is happening. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you have to take into the interpretation into something as well. We're all not going to see it the same way, maybe, or hear it the same exact way.
Yeah,
I think. Steve,
absolutely.
do you have time for some questions? I know
Of
it's
course.
okay. Sorry.
Nope.
um,
Here, got a lot to do. Man about town.
um, James Lawrence, can you tell us about how you investigate the history of a location? Is it just meeting someone at the Historic Society, or are there other steps that you don't see on camera, that we don't see on camera?
Yeah, there are a lot of steps in different ways. Sometimes it's as easy as calling local library, and sometimes they'll even be very, very gracious and pull things for you. There have been times when, we've requested a few documents, and if we tell them, what sort of history we're in, we'll get there, and they'll be like, "Oh, we thought you would also maybe like this," and they'll, add on to the pile and give you even more resources. Town hall is a great place to start, and if they don't have any records there, they can often tell you where they are. A lot of towns have heritage centers and different buildings that literally just preserve their history, and a lot of times they'll be really happy to work with you, and as long as you're not going to, you know, taint their or mix their history or do anything weird, they'll be really happy to provide just about any documents. Online, you can get a lot, but you have to be careful. You never know what you're getting
Yeah.
online. Uh,
Yeah.
Libraries is usually a good first step, and you really, just like the old days, when you were in school and you learn about microfiche and all that, all still exists, and that's how you do a lot of research. You say, okay, here is, this year to this year, Let's start there. And every newspaper, you just go, page by page, turn the wheel, spend 5, 6, 7 hours just seeing if anything comes up with certain names or so many, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's really, you can get some good oral history, by just going to some senior centers. But by and large, we start with, town halls, libraries, local university, and see where we can go from there.
Awesome.
And nowadays, even though you may not want to get all of your resources from online or from the computer, because you really don't ever know, unless it's from a government source where it's like .gov, or unless it's from a university or somewhere it's vetted and accurate information. But you can always find local historian, and they're always willing to help you find information or share information they've learned, supply documents for you. And a lot of them, may ask for a donation.
Mhm.
A lot of times we'll do that, of course. If the local historical society, if you see a thing there that, all their stuff is free, but it may say, hey, donations welcome. You slip them $100, whatever. They're making up numbers, but so it might not be free all the time, but you definitely can get most of the information that
Yeah.
you need.
Awesome. Thank you. Pam, Barry, Steve, what was your first investigation?
Oh gosh, I, I, whew, my first. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I investigated. This is I mean, when I was 16. No, I'm sorry, way younger. When I was 14, I investigated a place called Union Cemetery.
Oh.
Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they wrote a book about the place. I believe it's just called Graveyard Connecticut. I forget what the name of the book is, but so maybe that. But I wouldn't. That wasn't like a real, it was awesome. But I don't know if I would consider that my first. I don't know, quite honestly. I don't know what my very first, like, really. I remember going to a lot of places when I was younger, just going into them. But to pinpoint my very first one, gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know what my very first one. It's sad to say. I wish I did.
um,
My first.
yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, I get confused too when I think back. I can't remember when I first started. I mean, I was an enthusiast before I really got into it. So I was running around cemeteries like I knew what I was doing, and I didn't, So
No,
um,
same. I don't know if you'd count those as investigation.
yeah, yeah.
But my first professional one,
Go
I wish I could remember. I'm really sorry. I feel terrible.
Carmen wants to know if there's a special equipment you would invent for the paranormal field that you think would be helpful. Have you like something that you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yes, there are a lot of things I think, but if there was a way to get an actual physical and visual grid of the magnetic field, and see it and be able to interpret it appropriately so that we can identify real anomalous behavior that doesn't make sense with the current environment, I think it would really go a long ways. I know that they kind of are able to somewhat, because they've back engineered how, night insects can see using our Earth's magnetic field.
Right.
But I don't know how they would. I mean, obviously, I have no idea, but that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Because it
that
would
would be cool.
help us a lot, quite a bit. That would be cool.
One of my favorite. Where would you like to investigate again?
I would actually love to.
Bob Christopher said he's on it. He's going to make it for it. Bob Christopher said he's on it.
Oh, I love Bob. Tell him hello. please, if you talk to him.
No, he's on. He's watching. He can hear. He said he's gonna. He said he's on it. He's gonna work on making that piece of equipment.
Bob, oh gosh, yeah, if you could, please.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yvette's question.
Even ways that we could, if there is a way that you could separate what is radiation from in the moment, because a lot of what, actually all of what our devices detect is radiation, right? But if radiation rarely, if ever, dissipates, how do we know if that radiation is like right now or a year ago or 100 years ago, or if there was a way to sort of say, okay, this is happening right now, pay attention to it. There's some sort of energy, doesn't mean a ghost, obviously, but some sort of energy moving in the environment that doesn't make sense. That would be really, really cool. But place I would like to go back to, Waverly Hills always. I'd love to go back to Penhurst.
That's great.
All of those places, Trans-Allegheny, any of yeah, I would like to. I love anywhere.
What about a place you haven't been?
I'd like to get to the Villisca
Axe House.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be grizzly, but I think that place would be pretty fun.
I mean, you're Steve. You could just call them up and be like, "Hey."
I mean, if I wanted to be like weird, like, hey. But if there's ever a reason,
if I found a location and one of you guys call it, be like, cleared, schedule's cleared. Come on.
yeah. Most places are very sweet and do have an open invite, but you never want to be that guy that's like,
no, I feel you. I feel you.
Says, know. But if there's a reason, if they want me to come investigate, or I'm there, in town, and I can check it out, they don't have anything going on, it would be really cool.
Jessica Morin said, does Steve enjoy working with Satori and Cody on the show with their unique perspective?
I've known Satori, gosh, I want to say since, probably before she was born. Like I remember she was pregnant for Satori, so it is always awesome, to see her and to really just seeing her enjoy being in the field. It's always something she was interested in, and I think a little afraid of it when she was younger. Kind of like, ooh, what are you and Dad doing? Like, you guys are weird. But it's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. Cody's a great dude. It's always, I'm always happy to hang out with them, work with them, and whatever. It's always great.
That's awesome. By the way, it's Bob's birthday today, so I just want to give him a shout and say happy birthday, Bob.
Gosh, happy birthday, Bob. Wow.
And he says he has an idea. He's really going to work on something for you. So
listen, I tell you what. All right.
So let me see. When is Ghost Hunters coming back?
Oh gosh, we have no air date yet that we've been given for any sort of, but they're ready to go. Like we're in the ready. As soon as we have air dates, we will certainly let people know.
Awesome. One of my peaches, Dana. Which full spectrum camera do you use?
We have a Sony that was modified, and we get there are two that we got from Sean at Ghost Stop, but I don't know the brands, to be quite honest. I don't know. I'd say go to ghoststop.com and whatever he has, get them.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's where we get most of ours from. We have a few that wait for us or whatnot, but yeah.
I asked this. So Brandon, I'm sorry. Brandon are there any locations you haven't been to yet? Which you just answered. The Basilica. Am I saying that right? Basilica Axe Murder House.
I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, and I'm trying to visualize the spelling in my head.
And I actually looked it up today because I was gonna reach out to the owner and see if they wanted to come on my, because I'm trying to get more location owners on to kind of try to promote some of locations that people go to. And I looked it up today, and I can see how it's written and stuff, but I don't know exactly how for sure to say it, but
I've met the guy who runs that place, I believe at Malvern Manor, maybe.
uh-huh.
I remember now. He said, "I run." God, super nice dude. Uh, I'm his name's. I'm sorry. Such a nice guy. But you know what? I'm gonna
Yeah.
reach out someday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, "Hey, man, I'm coming."
Yeah. I love promoting locations, so that's one of my biggest things I love to do is to help these people out that let us come into their homes or their places and let us investigate. It's something else I can do to give back to them for allowing us to do that.
It's really awesome because they don't all, it wasn't always like that. It really
Yeah,
wasn't. And I want to say up until 15 years ago, there the chance of keeping one of these places even above ground through things like ghost hunts and tours, it didn't exist. So doing that is really awesome. Helping them, because the more that they're able to see that the paranormal community can sort of help them keep the lights on, the more they'll embrace what we're doing.
absolutely.
And,
Um, Nikki, hi, Steve. Have you ever seen evidence of an animal spirit?
no,
No.
no, I would like to, because um, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
The only time I think maybe ever is we're investigating a place uh, around New England area called Anawan Rock. There was a property right around that area, and we caught an EVP. It wasn't a disembodied sound. EVP of what we believe and what we had at the time, an audio engineer, sort of give is the sounds of, or not but a Foley artist, sound of a horse and carriage. But to me, that would be not necessarily the evidence of a spirit animal or the animal or the spirit of an animal, but just that sound captured in time. So could a moment be caught in time, whether it be audible or visual? Yeah, animals for sure. Yeah. So I'd say, but I've never seen any evidence of an actual
Animal spirit.
spirit. Someday I'd like to. It'd be awesome. But
Um, Jessica, just really quick, Jessica Moran said he sold the Axe House a few months ago.
Drafts. It's my luck. I'll have to go schmooze. Is that the word that they use? Schmooze or winnow or schmooze? Oh gosh. Oh, that's too bad. This is nice too.
All right. Let me see. I know if we. Okay, let me see. I think you answered that one already. Or somebody did answer that. Hold on. Let me see. Steve, thoughts on cell phone tablet apps, ghost boxes, and other electronic that manifest words, static voices, etc. I've always been weary of them.
Yeah, I mean, apps. They're not. There's no phone app that is going to help you find ghosts. That's not a real thing. If somebody is pretending it's a real thing, I would definitely raise an eyebrow at them for sure. Can there be audio recording capabilities on a phone app? Yeah, definitely. Put your phone in airplane mode. Get that. Now that is a digital recorder that works fantastic. You get an app on there that says it. But as long as I'd say if it's an app engineered for the paranormal, you don't know what they're gonna put in there for who knows, for fun. You never know. I'd be a little weary. But if you get just an audio recorder, app outside of the paranormal world,
Right.
I think that would be pretty awesome. Now, I will say that the phone, and here's where an app can be useful in paranormal if they're doing it right and not, trying to just take people's money, is that your phone does have it knows in the GPS where all of the accesses are, and it knows all four on all your smartphones, right? And there is a way that if your phone is having a hard time finding magnetic north through there's actually a little mercury switch in there type of thing. Um, then there are some I've seen that mathematically they have formulas where they can figure that out in ways that may, say, hey, this is a spot where because your phone can't find magnetic north, there could be some sort of energy fluctuation there that doesn't make sense. But that's about the extent of it. I wouldn't use anything else. And when it comes to, the ghost boxes and those sorts of things, for me personally, uh, I think I need a little more time with them before I'd be comfortable using them. Sadly, I see a lot of investigators that they just sort of let it lead them, you know.
Sure.
Where I'd say if you're using that device, and a lot of the investigators that I love and trust that I see using that device, they implement some safeguards to help against that, such as, you know, two is a coincidence, three is a pattern. If it can say it once, it can say it two or three times, or whatever. But and so try to see if you can get it a pattern in it. So if it can say that it's a male once, but then the next time you ask, it says pink, or it says something, say, okay, but that doesn't make sense to me. Say the same thing. You want a pattern there. You don't want to
Yeah.
just make it make sense. And then I see sometimes that those devices may lead investigators, right?
Yeah.
Where are you? They'll try for a little bit, tell us where you are, please. And I'm making this up as just an excuse, as
Right.
an
Right.
example. Please, water. It must be out by the pond. I knew it.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Right? They'll make it make sense. Ball. It must be a little kid wants to play with its ball. Oh, or they'll just make it make sense instead of just really saying, okay, that doesn't really why.
Right. Right.
So the randomness, I think, is a little scary. But there are a lot of investigators, like I said, that I love and trust who use it, great success. But I also know that they're, pretty strict with what they're considering evidence through those devices.
Um, Keith Bailey wants to know, what are your feelings about light anomalies?
It depends on what kind of light anomalies. I mean, certainly they do exist. You can create them yourself. There are ways that with gases in the environment, and that old story of swamp gas is certainly a true thing that that can create lights in the environment. We had, and so there are different ways. Now, if you're talking strictly paranormal type of illuminated phenomena, maybe possibly, who knows.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything myself necessarily that's illuminated.
Right.
Mm, Yeah, I'd be a little weary. Usually you can find the source of the light. Um, yeah, I'd say when it comes to now, if you're talking about like orbs, because a lot of people consider that light phenomena, an orb of light. If it's there in the environment, which, like I said, things can be in the environment organically. You can be in, there are electrical engineers and scientists who can have charged rooms to certain degrees where they will get a ball of light that floats through the environment, and it's just energy that you need to stay away from. Ball lightning does exist. It is a real phenomena where it's just a large discharge in the environment. It's not causing anything paranormal.
Right.
It's ball lightning in the real world. If it was in your house, it would blow the room up. It's not just, but it is a real phenomena in the environment. It is life. You see it in the sky, out in the, it is real. So light phenomena is real. And trying to figure out if it's paranormal or not, I think it depends on your investigation, what else you're experiencing during the investigation. Um, but yeah, it definitely can happen, I think.
Yeah. Danielle Wilson wants to know what was the most frightening place you've been? Where? Sorry.
Well, I think frightening would be the history, would be what happened at the place for me, because the ghostly stuff, the paranormal, I'm not frightened of. I'm intrigued. I'm drawn to it. Certainly startled by it. You know, you can get startled, um, but to me, when that brushes off, it's excitement. It's, oh
Yeah.
my, that was amazing, and you want it to happen again right away, as scary as it is, because the scary part of it is you don't know when, where,
Right.
that's the jump scare is what scares you. But the actual paranormal phenomena isn't frightening to me. Luckily, I feel very fortunate about that, because it would be a terrible career to be, uh,
You're scared.
imagine a pilot, get me out of here. It's like, get me out of this thing. Like, it would be pilot afraid of heights. What am I doing? Um,
No, you're right. I mean, I tell people too, and they ask me, they're like, "Aren't you scared?" And I'm like, "Listen, before you even know what's going on, it's over with. It happens so things happen so
yeah.
fast,
Yep.
that your mind automatically is. I remember quick. I remember like seeing a shadow, and I thought at first it was a bird, in a tree. Like that was just my mind automatically was trying to make a logical sense of what I was seeing. I mean, it happened so fast, but at first I was like, "How's there a bird flying in that bush?" And then I was like, "Wait, the bush isn't moving." It was over with, and then I realized, like, as you're like thinking back about what you just saw, you're like, "Holy crap, what did I just witness?" You
Yep.
know?
You're right. It happens very quickly. And a lot of times you don't know how to process it. And you'll get emotional, you get teary eyed, you get excited, you can even get angry sometimes, like not angry like you want to hurt, but just like, oh my God, like why wasn't my camera out? You get like
Yeah.
really a lot of emotions out of you. But yeah, frightening isn't necessarily now, I'd say to answer the question, a frightening place to go to, for me would because of the jump scare aspect, not knowing when, if, how, it would be places like Waverly Hills, Penhurst. At a private residence, I find that it's, I don't know, for whatever reason, not as likely to be just all of a sudden, oh gosh. It's usually something you're drawing out a little bit more, something
Yeah.
you're sort of, it gets a little more comfortable with you. It's almost a little more, you anticipate it happening in a strange way. Um, so places like Waverly Hills, Penhurst, those places can be quite scary, but also insanely beautiful. You know,
Yes.
you
Abs
walk around Penhurst,
Oh my gosh.
you're taken by the beauty. Quite honestly, it's
I had a cousin that was a resident there until he was 18, and then he was moved to Hamburg State Hospital. But yeah, he was a resident there almost his whole life, while it was open. Yeah, I never knew that. I never knew that. I went there a long time ago, and one of my family members I met through Ancestry, we connected, and she saw I went there, and she goes, we had a cousin that was there. And I'm like, no.
yeah. Wow. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So it's wow. That's really something. I mean, a lot of those places they end up, you know, but they don't always start as like a place saying, "I'm going to
Right.
treat people terribly." It
Right.
may become that, but it's
Right.
not always. And one thing I love about, there are a few of the facilities that are like this, but some are just have a corporate owner, just have somebody who runs it, and it's just like, oh, you go do, I don't know, whatever, we'll demolish that building someday, whatever, whatever. But there are places like Penhurst, even Waverly Hills, and other places where it's looked after by people who love the paranormal, people who are investigators themselves, people who are, and they almost take care of, even if they don't really look at it that way. It's
Right.
almost, they take a pride in, these, we do have some spirits here, and you're not going to F with them, like
Right.
you're going to treat them with respect. And if you don't, you're going to see the front door, and Not all of the larger scale places are like that. Some are just, hey, whatever, So it's nice to see that where some of the locations, um, you can experience some really frightening stuff, but there's a lot of love in there as well. It's very strange.
Yeah. Carmen wants to know, are you going back to Disney World, and would you ever investigate Disney World if they let you?
Oh, yes, I'm going back to Disney. Yeah, I go. Well, I talk about it too much, but I always, yeah, I try to go
So
every.
is Disney your place?
Disney is my place. Me and a couple of friends, we're hook, line, sinkered in. We're part of the Disney Vacation Club, the whole thing, and go every couple of months. Tango, Tango,
Yeah,
he's part
yeah,
of
yeah.
the club. Miss Amy Bruni, we all part of this little Disney.
Disney Club?
Yes, I'll be back there soon, actually, and would I investigate it? Yeah. As a matter of fact, the person who manages the Haunted Mansion, uh, you know, interestingly enough, told me about some hauntings they have there supposedly, and there's supposedly some others that
Yeah,
they talk about. I would do it for the fun of it, absolutely, but
that's awesome.
yeah, that place is awesome. I am a big kid, but don't fool you. It is as much for adults as it is for kids.
Oh yeah.
It-
I've never been to Disney, but I would want to go without kids. Like I would want to go and experience like I would want to go and be a big kid myself.
World, and I would go on a limb to say it would may even be more for adults than for kids. Even the kids, like you go into a show that is, and you see the adults coming out laughing more than the
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? Sorry, that's not what we're
No,
here to talk.
but like I get like Gettysburg is my place. Like that is like I want to move there. I want to die there, and then I want to haunt there. Like I just want to like I want to spend eternity in Like I just want to spend my entire self in eternity in Gettysburg. I love it there, so I get it. Having that place that you love to go to.
What's interesting is I've talked to a lot of investigators and people in other countries who don't know what Gettysburg is.
Yeah,
They'll be like,
that's
"What's that? What do you mean?" And then you realize, like, maybe they just didn't get that history. If they don't learn that, if they don't learn about Gettysburg in their country, like maybe they just don't know. I've had to be like, Gettysburg, where's that? What are you talking about? What's that? It's like, oh, in the United States, that's like one of our haunted, like where we all love and go. Like never heard of it. What is this? Tell me more.
yeah. Yeah, Gettysburg is well, I actually fell in love with Gettysburg before I was actually in the paranormal. And that is like, and I actually grudgingly went. My mom drugged me there. And the second I got there, I fell in love with it. I was like, I didn't want to leave. I cried. I was like, I don't want to leave. So now needless to say, I go once a month. I go hang out and do whatever. Sometimes I go by myself. I've been there for 10 days at one point by myself, just running them up through the streets, through the battlefields, and just like having fun.
I
So
mean, you need to. I mean, Gettysburg is awesome and a great place to unplug. Like even if the ghosts weren't there, just the vibe of the
history.
town,
Oh
so
my God, yeah.
cute. Little shops everywhere, little pubs and taverns, and
Yep.
the rolling hills everywhere.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is, and it's funny you say because Disney being my place, I go alone all the time. Also, I'll
Oh,
go
do
for
you?
at least. That sounds silly, but I mean, not as much as you maybe go alone because I'm quite far from Disney World, but I'll go alone at least 3 times a year. Just go for a week by myself, and I have a few friends down there, so I may meet up with somebody once in a while.
Yeah.
But
No,
for
but
the
that doesn't sound weird to me because I get it. Because
Mhm.
I have Gettysburg is my Disney World. You know what I mean? Like that is where it's my natural Xanax. I call it my Calgon. I go there and it's almost like I like my whole self just gets it's like cleansing or something. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I go there and it's like I can breathe.
Mhm.
you know?
Rejuvenates you for sure.
Steve, I've had you for almost 2 hours.
Okay,
And I know you are a very busy man, and I feel terrible keeping you as long as I have. And for anybody out there that had questions, I apologize I didn't get to them, but um, they're there. And Steve, I so love you. You're great. You're an awesome guy,
Very
inside
nice.
and out, and I appreciate you spending this time with me for sure.
Of course. Thank you, Taryn. I'll see you soon, I'm sure. And thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
You guys
Thank you.
listening.
All right, I will talk to you soon. Good night. Thank you, everyone. I apologize if I didn't get to your questions. I did try to do the best. There was one in here from somebody, from let me see, here, Tim. I am. If you're still watching, I apologize. Um, I will actually send this question to Steve, um, and Messenger maybe, and see if he can, maybe answer it for you. I really apologize, for not getting to that. And anybody else that said anything, I apologize. But I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys were awesome. Oh, thanks, Tim. I'm sorry. I apologize, but I am going to send that question to him, and see if he can't give me a response, and then get it back to you. Um, I feel terrible about that, because I do try to get to everybody's questions, especially when I have people on like Steve. So, with that being said, thank you so much for everybody. I love you all. You guys, you truly, without you, there'd be no me. So, thank you so much. And hope to see you guys next week.
Making some noise, everybody, as the stars